Hey, so today I decided to sit down where I have time and kind of talk about my undergrad experience and some things I wish I would have done differently or some things I think actually were helpful. So, yeah, just stay tuned for the situation at undergrad was a little different. So in high school in Ohio, I had the opportunity to take college classes while I was still in high school. Through a program. It was called College Credit Plus. I don't know what it's called now, but I had like 50 credit hours by the time I finished high school. Not necessarily all of them were going to apply to the eventual degree that I got, but some of them did. Like in high school, I took my calc, I took my physics, all of my maths were done. Like normally you have to take college algebra when you go your first or second year of college, but I didn't have to do that, and then I didn't have to take calc. I think those were like the big ones that I'm glad I got out of the way. So when I went to college, I still had to take this is like the pre-med requirements. I needed the freshman level biology, all my chemistries, a stats class. What else did you need for? I'm blanking now. Oh, biochem, but that's kind of an upper level thing anyway. Sorry, my phone dinged. But yeah, I got my freshman English done while I was in high school. So when I got to college, I only had to do my sophomore level English, which wasn't bad. So I'm really thankful I got my physics and calc done in high school, because if I didn't, I think that would have been a little bit more of a challenge. So I'm trying to think. So every semester I was able to take about like 13, 14 credit hours, which looking back, I kind of regret, because I think it would have been cool. Like I graduated a semester early anyway, but I could have maybe graduated a whole year early, but I wanted to space it out because of tennis. There's definitely semesters I feel like I could have doubled up or like took some extra classes, but at the end, I'm kind of glad it all ended the way it did. But looking back, I should have maybe been more proactive, because then I wouldn't have had to done my master's so quickly, which was kind of stressful. My number one regret from undergrad was not necessarily understanding what type of undergrad degree I needed for medical school. Like everybody says, you can have whatever. You could have a theater degree, you could major in English, anything like that, but you have to do the prereqs. I personally feel like I didn't understand that you had to take the prereqs like early for the MCAT. I didn't understand the concept of a gap year. I didn't really have anybody guiding me. So my freshman year, I only took bio. Sophomore year, took Gen Chem. Junior year, took OChem. Then senior year, I took biochem. So I was on the right track to take the MCAT by like senior year, but I didn't realize you take a junior year, which I probably should have done more research. I'm sure I'm not the only person out there that thinks that, but I would say that's probably my biggest regret, was not researching medical school and what you need to do at the beginning. I kind of did it as I went, which I mean, I think everything works out for a reason. So I'm good with how it worked out. I'm getting time to rest now, and I feel like I'm probably like the most prepared for medical school. Another thing I regret about undergrad was I truly did not realize how much your undergrad courses prepared you for the MCAT. I was also very scattered-minded at times because of tennis. I don't feel like I had time to process that. If you really like sat there and like, if I would have taken the material like in OChem or Gen Chem, looked at the syllabus, I should have looked at the syllabus, then say, okay, what is going to be on the MCAT of this? And I feel like that really would have helped me, because then I could have double dipped a little, like, okay, we're working on SN2, SN1 reactions. How can I remember this for later on when I'm studying for the MCAT? So didn't realize that. Biology I was pretty good at, like for the MCAT. I really enjoy biology, so that one really wasn't hard for me. I could remember so much from undergrad. But when it came to Gen Chem, OChem, physics was really hard for me on the MCAT because I had not had that since high school. So that was kind of difficult. So yeah, I don't know. The physics and I just do not mesh well together. But when you apply it to like body systems, like the diameter of a blood vessel or something, and understanding like the pressure and that makes sense. But I cannot see it very well like on a diagram, or when you're talking about like electrical currents and you're talking about how those work in an MCAT setting, it's like, but then you bring into like a biology setting, then I'm pretty good with that. I regret about undergrad was I did not study or prepare for lecture. I showed up to lecture and was expecting to get all the information I needed in that, I don't know how long like a lecture period is. It's like 50 minutes if it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then if it's Tuesday, Thursday, it's an hour and a half. Anyway, I was expecting to get all the information from that session, then take that information and study it, versus I really should have done more prep work for the lecture. Like I should have read or did research or watched any kind of YouTube video on what the syllabus said we're going over. So then I could have came to lecture with questions, because then that's like an active learning, and I feel like I do way better in active learning. Like Gen Chem 1, I definitely should have done that, because we were at tables and it was like an active learning session, and I'd come and I was not prepared to contribute, which I feel like that's a great lesson learned now, versus the medical school I'm going to is very collaborative, and you have to come prepare. You're on a team, you're in a small group, you have to be ready to help where maybe somebody's lacking understanding in something. So yeah, I kind of regret not coming to lectures prepared, but I know for medical school, I'm definitely going to do that. And I think it's going to help if I do that from day one. Another thing I remembered about undergrad is for medical school, you need letters of recommendation. Do not wait until you are applying to medical school to get letters of recommendation from your professor. Before I graduated, so that would have kind of been like the first semester of senior year, I knew I was leaving, so I was like, I gotta get my letters from these people. And I mean, most of them remembered me, and most of the people I asked gave me a letter, but I really wanted a letter from my freshman biology teacher, because I feel like I learned a lot from that class. And so I emailed her and asked, and she was super nice and like super understanding, but she's like, oh, like I wish you would have like asked me sooner, because like I remember you and I remember you in my class, but I feel like I can give you such a better recommendation if it would have been at the end of the semester. So I was like, but it worked out. My letters were fine. Obviously I got accepted, but that's a huge thing that I regret, was not, if I had a good relationship with the professor and I got a good grade in the class, I should have went to office hours at the end of the semester and been like, hey, I'm applying to medical school. Would you be able to write me a letter? And if they said no, I wouldn't be able to, then that's fine. You never want to pressure somebody into writing a letter they don't want to write, because it probably won't be great. But yeah, I got all my letters. Everybody was nice about it. But like I said, I wish I would have went to certain people at the end of the semester versus the end of my undergrad. And if your university has a pre-health advisor, a pre-health organization, really get involved with that. I was kind of involved with it. I didn't realize how important it was to be involved with that within the campus, but I would seek out help, because you can learn so much from the community around you, and they might have already done research on something you don't think is important, but they're like, hey, like you might need to do this to strengthen your application, anything like that. So definitely get in contact with your pre-health advisor or your pre-health community, anything like that. I think my last piece of advice is do not wait until, so med school applications open in May. Do not wait until May to do your application or secondaries or anything like that. Be a type A person and plan ahead. Normally I am a type A person and plan so far ahead, but in my mind I did not like think to Google different prompts what I needed to do on the application. I just did not realize how much time it takes to fill out that application with the activity section, your personal statement, all those things. It took me so long to write my personal statement, but when I finally got it together and what I wanted to write, that didn't take long. But kind of constructing it and why I wanted to be a doctor, like you don't think about that until you start getting asked that question, and you don't get asked that question until you're applying to medical school. So definitely ask yourself that question as early on as you can so you can start formulating that. But do not wait on your application, because I think it takes a couple weeks, honestly, to make sure your grammar's right, make sure you have like valid statements, a valid point sometimes. And yeah, so I personally feel like Christmas break would be the Christmas break would be an excellent time to sit down and formulate like at least half of it and get an idea of what you want to write in your primary. Along with that, your secondary applications, I feel like as soon as you get that primary submitted, that should be the latest you should start thinking about secondaries. You should really, like, over Christmas break, compile a list of medical schools you want to go to, then look on like Reddit, Student Doctor Network. They all have previous secondary application questions, and most of medical schools are the same because they don't have time to like formulate new questions every year and formulate like new ways to analyze people's answers and stuff. So a lot of medical schools are going to repeat the same secondary questions. So be a type A person, look at that in advance, start formulating responses, even if it's just in a Google Doc. That's what I did the second time I applied. I started this stuff early, made sure I had good answers for everything. And I can make a video about reapplying and what I did different. If you feel like you need to change your personal statement, for the most part, I changed mine very minimally, I believe, because my reason for being a doctor's the same. I think I threw in a paragraph or two about my master's and how I felt like that experience made me a stronger applicant, things like that. But my personal statement is about the same. My activity section changed a little bit because I had new experiences, and I'm trying to think. Just entering my master's classes into like oh my gosh, the transcript part of the application is ridiculous. If you've been to more than one university, it is going to take forever to get transcripts from all the universities. Entering in every single class you take, like I said, I had 50 some credit hours from high school. So I had to enter in every single one of those classes on top of every single undergrad class I ever took, on top of every single master's class I took. And that was an ordeal. That might have taken me longer than some of like the activities writing, because I've taken a lot of classes. So I think that's a big hassle. If you've only been to one university, then even two, it's not going to be bad, I promise. But if you are like me and you've taken a lot of higher education classes, it will take a while to fill out. I can't remember if I think this is turning also to like an application type video, I'm not sure, but my last piece of advice I would give for like applying to medical school, well, I learned this too like an undergrad, so this is kind of like an undergrad experience. Do not apply, like make sure you read the medical school's website before you apply, because I don't want to like name drop medical schools, but there are certain medical schools that really thrive off. If you are not from that state, they're going to give a priority to those people because they're more than likely to stay in that area after they're done with medical school. And that's kind of what kind of culture they cultivate, you know? And so, yeah, so always just be on the lookout for that Student Doctor Network. If used properly, I feel like it's an excellent resource. You can't go into those threads reading about like MCAT and like, oh, I received my secondary, and like, you can't do that because you will just go into a dark spiral. But use it in ways that are helpful. And when you start to see like MCAT med school like acceptance posts, just kind of disregard them, because you don't know if that person is being honest. Like, I hope they're being honest, but you don't know. But like I said, just make sure you do everything on time. Make sure you know what medical schools you're applying to, and make sure you have a valid reason to applying that medical school. Because if you don't have a valid reason for applying to a medical school, like in California, or if you don't have a valid reason to apply to an osteopathic medical school, like I'm going to, like the whole body, mind, soul connection, like the body is one whole. If you don't if those aren't your vibes, then I would maybe steer clear away from that, because then you're kind of wasting money on an application. So that's my video as of right now about undergrad advice, I guess application advice, but I learned all that stuff in undergrad, so that's kind of why they kind of went together. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me, comment on the video. I can make a part 2, like going more into the application or more into my undergrad. If you have specific questions, like I can kind of give you a gist of how I applied. I won't give like my MCAT score or like specific experiences I had, but I can give like some good examples or maybe some like examples of community outreach programs you could look into. But I'll probably never share anything super personal on here, just like very general. But yeah, so thanks for watching, and I hope this helps somebody.